MediaMarchersUnlimited.com.
I'm Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., and this is the Kenneth Chamberlain Report.
Fight the power! 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 We got to fight the powers that be!
A little bit to the chase, I think you're raising a very valid point, which is we've been looking at this. I think is a very important component too, and easily African Americans in our society, in our county. But there clearly was more than that here. We had issues of mental health, and the police training and dealing with someone who may have some mental health issues. That doesn't mitigate the fact that I certainly wonder the same thing, Gina. Would a white person who had mental health issues living in the nice part of town been treated similarly? That I don't know, but I do think that the mental health component is a real part of this, and I certainly welcome Ken or Mayo to discuss this.
I would just think
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thanks, Gina.
I think that when you look at what happened with Mr. Chamberlain, if you had no mental health issues and you're at your door and someone comes in and calls you a racial slur or an anti-Semitic slur or whatever it may be, something designed to really hurt you as an individual, anti-Irish, whatever it may be, that they're going to raise concerns that create agitation. So you wouldn't do that to anybody, and when you do that, you make that person more upset. And generally, police want to de-escalate a situation. So if the person's already upset, you try to calm it. You don't take a person, in the case of Mr. Chamberlain, who was already calm, and try to escalate it to make him upset. And that's one of the issues, is that when you look at this, or whether you're looking at the George Zimmerman's behavior, Trayvon Martin wasn't attacking George Zimmerman at the time. George Zimmerman was the aggressor pursuing Trayvon Martin. So when you pursue someone, and you end up eliciting a response from that person, it's not now justification for you to say, hey, they were angry and now I'm fearful.
Right.
Again, I say all the time, I can't start a fight with Mike Tyson and then be upset because I get hurt.
Right, no, that's absolutely. Ken, from your perspective, one, were the police aware of the mental health component here? Do you know that? Do you know whether they would have been aware of that?
Well, see, the first thing I want to say is that was a label that they gave him.
Okay, we're going to touch on that when we come back
We
from
have to take
commercial.
a quick break. And welcome back. This is Adam Bradley. You're listening to the Adam Bradley Show. We're here every 12 noon on Wednesday on 1460 on your AM dial or worldwide at WVOX.com. Today we have a very special guest, and I'm going to continue our discussion with Ken Chamberlain Jr. and Mayo Bartlett, his attorney. Ken, we were in the middle of a discussion regarding what, if any, impact mental health issues may have played in the particular case of your father. And again, I wanted to give you the mic because you were in the middle of saying something, and I wanted to let you say what you...
Well, as my attorney stated earlier, and one thing that we definitely agree with is that your job is to diffuse a situation, not create one. So I always go back to the training of the officers, or as I've said, the lack thereof, because I don't know what their training was or anything when dealing with any type of emergencies or any type of situations. Now, you have had media even make comparisons to the killing of my father and the very recent killing of Samuel Cruz, and which I felt was inappropriate, number one, because they were alleging in both instances that they attacked the officers and the officers had no choice. But what I said, instead of looking at that and making the victim look like a suspect, let's look at the fact that yet again officers were called to respond to someone's home and that person ended up dead. So what type of training are these officers being given?
And I think clearly in your case, Ken, I can't speak about the other case, but if the goal is to diffuse a situation, which clearly is what the police should be doing, especially when they're called on a health alert that's been canceled, where the person is also telling them he doesn't need their help, by calling them a racial slur, they are clearly not diffusing a situation. And again, whether there is mental health issues or not, someone can react to a racial slur, and often will react in a hostile manner to a racial slur. So I think clearly there's an issue of their ability, or the police ability, the police training on how to diffuse these difficult situations where they're in someone else's home, they're in someone else's space. And I think that's really something that we need to look at. We have another call.
We do have another caller. I believe we have Charlotte on the line. Welcome, Charlotte.
I would say that the first thing that should occur is that there should be a statement. It ought to be a required statement of what occurred, and that should be from all police personnel involved. If the police officer thinks they committed a crime, then they have the right to plead the fifth and not give that statement, but they shouldn't continue their employment if they're not able to give an articulate statement about what in fact happened. There ought to be an independent prosecutor in all issues of police shootings, because for the police department itself to have to investigate its own is extremely difficult, if not impossible. And what we see time and time again in both the Samuel Cruz case and the Kenneth Chamberlain case is that the police commissioner immediately upon the shooting comes out and says it's justified. And then they say, however, we'll be investigating. Well, you've drawn your conclusion already. You've reached the determination that it's justified. So at that point, that department can no longer be trusted to do the investigation. I believe that there should be certainly more training, in particular with respect to matters that don't involve criminality. When you're going to assist someone on a medical call, there ought to also be a mental health component where you have mental health workers that are readily available to assist police if in fact they believe that the person they're dealing with may have mental health issues. And if you simply look at the ever-increasing population of people in the United States with Alzheimer's, the chances of this happening in all communities, whether irrespective of your race or your financial means, is exponential. It's just going to continue to grow. You're going to have people who were fine today, possibly running corporations today, who maybe are not as lucid as they used to be, and who may not let the police come in and may become agitated. So I would fear for anyone who's an elderly person, or anyone who maybe has a mental health issue and has never had any contact with the police whatsoever, but maybe off their medication or maybe suffering, that they could be killed. So it's a real fear now that people have to ask themselves, is it worth me buying Life Aid, or should I just take my chances that my loved one may have a medical emergency? So those are some of the things, but I think that those are all essential in terms of restoring confidence, because that confidence that we used to have in the police is eroded every day, and we have more incidents like this each and every day.
Well, that gets back into something that we were talking about earlier a little bit about how do we change this. One of the things we talked about was community policing and the fact that we don't have much of that anymore. And it's unfortunate. I certainly would think that in areas, for instance in White Plains, where they're mainly pedestrian, meaning there's no dispute that when you're talking about South Lexington and Winbrook, that's a pedestrian area. There's no reason why they can't have regular persons on that beat in a manner where they're getting to know the community, meeting with the community, maybe having the White Plains Housing Authority having a meeting, or the Tenants Association of Winbrook where the police who's regularly on the beat is invited to talk to them and speak to them and develop that personal relationship that hopefully would benefit both the law enforcement, but also the people of the community. And I think that that's something that seems to be missing, and I think would play maybe a much better role, because obviously, you know, Ken, you have my deepest sympathies and condolences. What you've gone through is horrific and awful. But I guess the goal now for all of us is, how can we make the system better?
Well,
We can't take back what was done. We can only try to fight to make what out of what was done something much better for everybody else.
and I think that that's one of the things that I've been pushing, as well as my attorneys, is that our objective now is to affect some type of change, positive change. Take a negative and make it positive. There's nothing that's going to happen that's going to bring my father back. So we look at, how can we make the community better? I'm all for community policing. I believe in having that same police officer in that same area, or on that beat, as they used to call them, the beat cops. I'm all for that, because that police officer knows the community. And I never take away from the fact that police officers have a very difficult job. I believe that you have to have law and order. But as I've said before, that the law has to apply to everyone. No one can be above that. And when you start having individuals who feel that they are above the law, or the order of the day is to kill with impunity, now we have a problem.
Or just the use of excessive force when it's unnecessary. When you are empowered, you have a very important job as a law enforcement officer. And I want to say, and I think we all agree, many of them use that power properly, thoughtfully, and the right way.
Yes, you have great police officers out there. And I always say, we're not anti-law enforcement, not at all.
I think that's really important to acknowledge that, but that doesn't mean there isn't a problem. And we need to make our system better, and I think that's what you're fighting for. I certainly agree with your efforts, and I want to thank you both for coming today. Ken Chamberlain Jr., Mayo Bartlett,
Thank you.
good luck with your endeavors. You know, I'm around. Let me know how I can help, because I think these are important issues. And I want to thank everybody for listening today. And hopefully I'll be back next Wednesday, and we can continue this very interesting dialogue. Have a great week, everybody.
All you care about is money. It's not about money. It's about sending a message. Everything burns.
MediaMarktUnlimited.com